So, you pulled for Yelan? And you got them instead. Good thing you're here! Hi, my name is Earl Beidou and welcome to the series where we take a look at awesome 4-star substitute for 5-star characters you still don't have. In today's episode, no Yelan? No problem! Yelan's considered a broken character because of her fast hydro application, her support capabilities, her huge damage potential, this haircut. But guess who has almost all of that while being a 4-star unit? It's Xingqiu. Just a quick disclaimer, tons of Xingqiu guides has already been uploaded, so this will not be a how-to build video, but I made this to emphasize why our boy Xingqiu is worthy of your time and investment. Now let's talk about why Xingqiu is one of the best units in game. As a 4-star character, Xingqiu is easier to obtain. He is alongside Yelan on this banner, so if you pull on her, he most probably came home. He was also available during the Lantern Rite event, but if you fail to get him, fret not as he will be available to be purchased on Star Glitter Exchange this March. So make sure to save up. To understand the next sections further, let's quickly discuss Xingqiu's kit. Let's ignore his normal attack as this is not important for now. His skill deals 2 Hydra damage, gives you 3 rain swords at C0 that acts as a pseudo shield, and heals you slightly with his A1 passive. His burst also generates the rain swords like his skill, which will not be shattered during his burst. More importantly, your active character's normal attack will trigger sword attacks every second. His A4 passive gives him 20% Hydra damage bonus. His kit's potential will be discussed in the next parts. Xingqiu is currently the best Hydro applicator in game. Hydro characters are already held with high regard for the fact that they enable powerful reactions, namely Vaporize, Freeze, Electrocharge, and Bloom. And Xingqiu does this spectacularly. How Xingqiu does this is by having a separate internal cooldown on his rain swords and his burst swords that both follow standard ICD. It means his rain swords and bursts can apply Hydra separately every 2.5 seconds or every 3 hits. To make it less complicated, he basically applies Hydra to enemy almost every time you're beside them while hitting them with his burst. It doesn't stop there. When you're lucky enough to have his C6, it adds additional sword attacks, meaning better hydro application. Aside from enabling other characters deal massive damage through his hydro application, Xingqiu can also hit like a tank. First, his skills 2 hydro damage do not have ICD, so both of the hits can trigger Vaporize if Pyro is present, dealing huge damage as seen here. Paired with Sacrificial Sword, you can double the amount of damage. It's not even the best part yet. Looking at his burst multiplier might seem underwhelming, so let's try to understand the power his burst holds. As mentioned earlier, aside from giving you rain swords, Xingqiu's burst will let your active character's normal attack trigger sword drains every second for 15 seconds. At C0, a 2-3-2-3 pattern is followed, so 2 swords on the first second, 3 swords the next second, and so on. So a total of 37 swords can be unleashed for 15 seconds if done correctly. So this seemingly low multiplier times 37 is already more than 4,000%. And his C6 makes it even stronger by adding more swords following a new pattern 2-3-5-2-3-5. So a total of 50 swords will hit your enemies, translating to over 5,000 multiplier. That's a lot! Xingqiu's greatness doesn't stop with his burst. He also has support utility that is proven to be very useful in making his team's gameplay better. His rain swords provide damage reduction while active. This is specifically useful for on-field carries without shoulders. These rain swords also heal you slightly. Talk about being an all-rounder. However, many might see his healing as weak because it doesn't compare to the wide roster of healers we have. But this provides added comfort, especially in Abyss, as well as to certain characters and weapons who do not need a full HP to function properly. Xingqiu's C2 is also very useful as opponents' Hydro resistance is decreased by 15% when hit by his burst. Characters like Ayato and himself will enjoy this. With this already many useful passive, he still has one trick up his sleeve. One of my favorite Xingqiu's passive is Flash of Genius, where he has a 25% chance to refund materials when crafting talent books. This saved me a lot of resin. But with great power comes few considerations in using Xingqiu. To play him properly and exploit his kit, there are two things you need to keep in mind. Number 1, his energy needs. Xingqiu's burst has a high cost of 80 energy, which might cause problems if not solved. Luckily, it is relatively easy to address. The main solution for his ER needs is to provide Xingqiu as many energy recharge possible through his weapon, artifacts, constellation, and team comps. Weapons like Sacrificial Sword, which is his best in slot, is a way to go. If you don't have that, Favonius Sword or the F2P friendly Sapwood Blade are good substitutes. For artifacts, the 2-piece set bonus of Emblem of Severed Fate, which provides 20% ER, is very helpful. Giving him ER sands if needed is also a choice. Xingqiu's C6 also provides energy, but take note that this is not a must to start building him. And lastly, partnering him with another Hydra character to batter each other, as well as using Raiden Shogun with him will provide a lot of comfort. But just how much ER Xingqiu needs? The answer depends on your weapon, artifacts, constellation, and teamcom choice, but here's my recommendation. Feel free to pause the video. Now that his ER concerns are addressed, we also need to consider his skill cooldown. His skill has a very long 21-second cooldown, and the best way to solve this is to use Sacrificial Sword, which gives him a chance to reset his skill's cooldown and use it again, solving both his ER and cooldown issue. This is the reason why this is his best in slot, even beating 5-star weapons. But what if you don't have Sacrificial Sword? Stack a ton of ER to him to make sure his burst has 100% uptime, since you can only use his skill every other rotation. This makes using 4-piece Emblem of Severed Fate on him make sense, as more ER you stack, the more damage you create. Now that you know Xingqiu's potential and considerations, the next question is, how do you play him and who do you play him with? Although you can play however you want and put characters with him, there are theme templates you can use to reach his maximum potential. So let's run through Xingqiu's best theme and showcase. Number 1 is one of his best themes, Vaporize. In this, Xingqiu's role is to constantly apply Hydro to let his Pyro DPS vape as much as possible. So the general template is, number 1, Xingqiu of course, number 2, a Pyro main or sub DPS. Hu Tao, Yanfei, and Xiangling works incredibly well with him. 3 to 4 are flex slots that won't interfere with vape reaction, like an Animo support, shielder like Zhongli and Toma, and buffers like Mona and Bennett. Now here's my Xingqiu vape showcase.
Everybody stand back! Animal hypostasis emulation! Witness the power of Gua! Know my sword! Inadmissible evidence!
Number 2, Xingqiu also works well with Bloom teams, be it Pure Bloom, Hyper Bloom, or Burgeon. For the template, number 1 is Xingqiu, number 2 a Dendro unit like Nahida, Kale, and the Traveler. Number 3, for a Pure Bloom team, you can just add another Hydro or Dendro. For Hyper Bloom, add an Electro character with EM build. Kuki Shinobu shines in this team. For Burgeon, use a Pyro unit with EM build like Toma. Number 4, a Shielder and a Healer that don't interfere with Bloom is a must, since Bloom damages your active characters too. Now you can watch my Xingqiu trigger Bloom.
Make yourselves at home! Everyone hold hands! Witness the power of Gua! Rain outlines you! Stand with me! I'll settle this! Just play freely.
If you hate taking damage and love CC, you'll definitely like Xingqiu's freeze team. A good Xingqiu freeze team should have basically Xingqiu, a cryo unit, and 3 to 4 units are just flex slots. Take a look on how Xingqiu obliterates enemies without them moving.
Fallen leaves, adorn my night into the wind.
Ring cutter! Punishment!
Be still.
The next team I recommend is Electro Charge. Just put Xingqiu, an Electro unit like Raiden, Fischl, or Beidou, and 3rd and 4th unit are just flex slots. Just add your buffer, shielder, or healer here. Take a look how they electrocute enemies here.
Stand clear. Power that ended height. Let me weave you a verse. Rain outlines your fate. Absorption test. Animo test 6308.
Xingqiu has proven his power since his release and is still relevant until now. From his support capabilities to his mind-blowing damage, I think Xingqiu deserves your time and investment, and surely you'll never regret. Did you like this video? If you do, please like and subscribe and follow my other social media account for more. Again, this is Earl Bedo. See you next time.